Hello and welcome to the big picture. The implosion in the Aadmi party continues. After 4 members of the national executive, Prashant Bhushan, Yogendra Yadav, Prof. Anand Kumar and Ajit Jha were removed from the body, it was the turn of its internal Lokpal, Admiral L. Ramdas. The shake-up is expected to continue. Meanwhile, thousands of volunteers across the country have been shaken by the developments. They have been divided between the two camps, with many deciding to remain neutral and wait for further developments. Aadmi Party Chief and Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal, meanwhile, feels that everything is fine within the party now. Is it really fine? Has the party not failed its own basic philosophy of transparency, among other things? After the purge, will the party be looked at in the same manner as it was soon after the Delhi elections? Does it still carry hope for the millions who saw it as an alternative to the mainstream parties? Has Aadmi Party also become any other party? And most importantly, does Arvind Kejriwal evoke the same kind of hope and excitement among the people after all this? We will discuss all this today with Pushpesh Pant, political analyst and former professor, Professor S.S. Jodhka of the Center of the Study for Social Systems in JNU, Milan Gupta, a volunteer of the Aadmi Party, Saba Naqvi, political editor, Hindustan Times. Outlook. I'm sorry, Outlook. I don't know where Hindustan Times came from. Welcome to all of you. I would like to come to you, Milan, first. Milan, you are a volunteer of the party.
Yes, I still am a volunteer.
You are a volunteer, I said.
Yes.
And you worked hard for this party for the last how many years?
3 years now.
Since the time the party was
Right.
started. And today, when you look at what is happening all around you, do you think that the basic philosophy on which this party was formed has been adhered to?
It has not been adhered to. Of course, it is plain, open, transparent. And I must, in this august company, I must speak blatantly, truthfully, frankly. Of course, it has not been adhered to. That is truth. But a lot of blame on that does not fall on Arvind Kejriwal or Yogendra Yadav or Prashant Bhushan. It falls on me. It falls on a lot of the volunteers.
Falls on you means falls on the volunteers.
Yes, on the members who were supposed to raise a voice. We've been raising a voice for a long time. We just did not raise it strong enough because there's elections and elections after elections, and we thought, or we led ourselves to believe that winning at any cost is very important. And that was our tragic mistake. We shouldn't have made that. We should have raised our voices of transparency, internal democracy long back. For example, even now, my party is hiding the National Council list. The entire game has been, there have been some 200 people who were assembled somewhere, some random 200 people assembled at a random place. I could do the similar National Council meeting in my mohalla. And I could just get 200 signatures and they say, now I am the new National Secretary and the new National Convener. They should now, if they want legitimacy of the expulsion, and they, in fact, Election Commission will ask for the legitimacy, then they have to make the list public. They have to make those 200 signatures. They have been telling the media
231 or something.
Yes, they should say, who are those 231 people?
Okay, basic. Professor Pant, this seems to be the mood, though there are, I'm sure there are a lot of people who will be talking in favor of Arvind Kejriwal and what has happened. But how do you look at this whole thing, the way things have developed in the Aadmi Party? Why do you think that this basic philosophy has been given a short shift?
I've neither been a volunteer nor a sympathizer.
Yes.
I've had a very active sympathizer in the house, my daughter-in-law, who was an election agent for Yogendra Yadav, and we have had this running debate at home. Nor am I a member or sympathizer of any other political party. I think all of us, even neutral people, observers, had great hopes because we thought we were having an embryonic beginning of new kind of politics. I think everybody is very disappointed, and Milan's anguish and angst is understandable. But I think what is even more tragic is that since the Kapasela meeting of the National Council, I think certain very ugly trends have come up. Let's not worry about the other things which Milan has made, the use of violence, Arvind condoning it and so on. I think the elementary principle of natural justice is that you hear both parties. Now, even if Prashant Bhushan and Yogendra Yadav and Anand Kumar and Ajit Jha are totally in the wrong, they should have been heard. That's number one. Number two, all this, where is the difference then? first BJP was a party with a difference. It turned out to be a clone of the other party. And then you say, we are a party with a difference, transparency in a party democracy. Then when the crunch comes, you say, oh, that's our internal matter. We don't have to explain it to you. I found it ridiculous. Ashutosh, whom I'm very fond of, telling somebody in a debate, I think it was Milan, oh, I don't have to make it public to anybody. If you want to see this list, come and have a look at it. Oh, it's our internal matter. So it's an internal matter between Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi and the Congress party. So it is between the Nagpur headquarters and Mr.
Amit Shah
And the rest of the... So what's the problem? So is an internal matter with Mamata Banerjee, and so is an internal matter with the Badals, the Abdullahs, the Muftis and Mamata Banerjee. So what are we talking about?
Saba, what are we talking about?
You know, I have to say that I agree with that, especially Aam Aadmi Party should put things publicly. But let me take it from there. That your basic thing is it over for the Aam Aadmi Party? Is the
No, I am not
over?
saying is it over for them.
You know,
My question is this: why is it that they have completely gone away from the basic philosophy which they themselves proclaimed to the world, that because of which they got so much support?
I hope that this whole episode, look, what has happened here, it was quite clear that Mr. Kejriwal wanted Yogendra Yadav and Prashant Bhushan out. It is also known that they were not so involved in the Delhi campaign, right through. I mean, there are various, we don't want to go here. Let us presume that he wanted them to leave, he wanted them out. I hope that the scene and the noise that's been made around it will be a reminder to him that he has to keep those basic principles in the party. But having said
I just have another question. See, when this party was formed, and when the kind of, even in the 2013 elections, Delhi elections, the kind of support they got, which surprised all of us, everybody. At that time, one of the things which Arvind Kejriwal used to say was that this is a party of everybody. This is a Shivji ki Bharat where all streams of, people are. Has that whole philosophy come to an end now? Now this Shivji ki Bharat is Arvind Kejriwal ki Bharat. Has it become that?
Okay. Well, mass politics in India, Girish, let me tell you one thing. None of us would be discussing Aam Aadmi Party at all after the Lok Sabha elections if Mr. Kejriwal had not been a charismatic face. And then if they had not been able to run this amazing campaign and somehow get this historic mandate. So a personality cannot be ignored. We would be hypocritical if we say a personality does not matter. People do not vote for nothing. They need to connect with a person.
Right.
So let's be clear about that. And I really do think that they need to be very careful about 3-4 things in their party. One is the issue, the financial model. They put up all their donations on their website.
Saba, the question is clear. The question is simple and straight.
No, he is the leader.
Has he become the most important person in the party, and he will not tolerate anybody else, any dissent in the party? Is that what has come to?
If you go through what Prashant and Shanti Bhushan were doing, if you go through some of the details, I wish they could have been accommodated, because Prashant is a very special person with a very special contribution to anti-corruption details. But if you go through the whole, I don't think in any party, they were actually saying they didn't want them to win. It was said publicly, and it is admittedly said so. So it is, if they are a party in formation, I don't think it would have been tolerated anywhere.
So you think that this kind of behavior, alleged behavior of either Prashant Bhushan or Yogendra... No, 1 second.
Professor Pant says, I still believe they should have been heard. But I also have a question. I don't understand why Mr. Shanti Bhushan and Prashant Bhushan wanted to be in AAP. Because
they own AAP. They created AAP.
How can they own AAP?
I own AAP. It's not Arvind. It's not, which is what I disagree with Saba. Saba and I were debating in the waiting room. That, of course, a leader is important. But a local leader is important. People are intelligent, they are extremely wise. They do not trust a person who is on television or who's on posters or who's only in rallies. They trust persons who visit them every day, who touch them physically, and that's the role of volunteers, local volunteers. I got the votes from my locality. I stay in Sector 6, Dwarka. I got the votes from my locality because me and my local friends, we went with topis on our head and campaigning and dancing around. If we were not the local people and we had not visited these guys, the local people, every now and then, those votes wouldn't have come. We did not do that.
Okay, that's interesting. So what you're saying is that okay, he is a charismatic leader, all that is fine, but volunteers matter. And
They are the only things that matter.
they are the only things that matter. Professor Jodhka? Yeah. Professor Jodhka, how do you look at this? Do you see a clear departure from the basic philosophy of the party at this point of time?
See, philosophy and politics or ideologies and leaders, that's kind of one level which appears to us immediately. I think there's a larger historical social process of organization building, and I think one should also look at it from that perspective. We, in kind of people who do study of social movements or political processes, they also talk about how new social movements tend to get institutionalized. And when they get institutionalized, they have to evolve structures. So Aam Aadmi Party has been a kind of social movement, as we know, and it's not a very old social movement, and it's now in power. It's come in power, and now it would need to evolve structures of itself. I think you can't have more than one leader at the top. So you need to have some kind of differentiated authority. And you can't have only one leader also. You need to kind of distribute, like the government. Organizations also need to have structure. And in that sense, I think the organization has to evolve into something where people can work with each other. Otherwise, if you have 5 different leaders, everyone claims to be bigger than the other, they are likely to come in conflict with each other. That's what we are seeing. Looking at from kind of distance, I'm not really involved with any political party. Looking at it from the distance, it was something which was waiting to come. It would perhaps still come, little more would also come, but eventually it will have to settle down if it has to function.
What was waiting to come?
This kind of conflict between individuals, because there are more than one individuals at the top. So there has to be an organizational structure with some kind of hierarchy, some person at the top, some person at the second. And then people in the organization also have to understand what is the kind of, system of commands. Where is the command going to come from? What is my responsibility? What is my role? What am I supposed to do? Who is supposed to take decision, final decision? If there is a difficulty, how is it going to be resolved? They have talked about it in a very idealistic sense, that volunteers are important, it is AAP party, it is Democratic Party, it's Shivji ki Barat, everyone is equally important. That does not happen in practice. If you were to have that kind of democracy, it doesn't work. We eventually have to evolve institutions. We have to have Prime Minister, President, Cabinet of Ministers. We have to have a system of command, system of authority, and then also systems of punishments and how people go out, how people come in. So all complex organizations, this is an urban party largely, and this has to deal with complex realities, large varieties of people. We have a very diverse society. So in that, I think if an organization has to evolve, it will have to learn from its experience. And this is one of the experiences it will learn from if it has to survive. Eventually, I think everyone has to learn. In the sense that volunteers also will have to learn and situate themselves. How do they fit in this organization, at what level and in what way? And I think that is where one needs to kind of, in India, we don't have this culture of working together as equals. There has to be a kind
exactly
of
the point. No, that is exactly the point. Yeah. Professor Pant, I'll come to you, Saba. We as a nation, we still believe in these vertical structures. Horizontal structures don't work in this country, as Professor Jodhka is pointing out. We need somebody at the top. We need a man at the top, and that man has to have all the powers. Is that the way?
No, I don't.
Is that the only way political parties can function in this country?
I don't agree, Girish. I think that's where the great generational chasm here. I think Milan is typical of that. The younger generation of India, demographic profile, post-2011 census, is majority of them are under 27, under 28. They do not subscribe to this patriarchal, vertical power structure. They are willing to have networking. They are willing to form structures and dissolve and work in parallel neural networks, if I may borrow that phrase. I think they are not willing to. I mean, you could work in a traditional panchayat where you could work as equals. There's a peer group kind of thing. But I don't think that we have fallen into the trap of believing the myth that all political parties must be as complex organizations, as Professor Jodhka says, should be structured like this. But there should be enough resilience and flexibility for people to grow up. All parties can't be mirror images of either Congress Party or BJP or Congress Party.
What is the use? Yes, Milan.
Yeah,
no, because I'm sure this kind of discussions have happened among your volunteers and among your people.
All the time.
And Arvind Kejriwal, from his conversations which was leaked or which was heard and things like that, is very clear in his mind that either me or them. That kind of a situation.
Right. Girish sir, the major, the debate is has party deviated from the philosophy, yes. And there is obviously an assumption which whenever we are talking, all of us are talking, we are equating Aam Aadmi Party is equal to Arvind Kejriwal. So if Aam Aadmi Party has deviated, so has Arvind Kejriwal deviated. So I do not want to get into that discussion. But coming back to the original topic, which is, has there been a philosophy deviation? Now, Professor Jodhka may comment himself. There was a very, very specific, clear ideology that we promised to the people, let alone promised to the volunteers, that internal democracy and so on and so forth. We promised that there will be no whip system in the party, the legal whip system, whether the anti-defection law, the 10th schedule amendment. It was not supposed to be applicable. Arvind, in his book, on page number 72 in Swaraj book, he said he hates the whip system is terrible. Is clearly, explicitly commented. Now, Sir Professor Jodhka, I would like to ask you, now if whip system is removed as we asked for, and this is how it was before 1984 Rajiv Gandhi's amendment, won't the country function? It was functioning. Won't the democracies function the way they have been functioning all across the world? It is a bottom-up system that we have. It's democracy.
That's not what I was saying. I mean, I was completely misunderstood. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you need structures of different kinds. That is precisely the point I'm making. That the earlier kind of structure to which we are used to, that's why we can't work together. Absolutely. We need to have new kind of democratic structures which can take into account horizontality. But at the same time, you can have only one chief minister. And you need to have a constitution.
I don't think anybody
need to have a structure. Without structure, you cannot function.
Professor Jodhka, I don't think one second, Saba. I don't think there was any dispute about who's going to be the chief minister. That nobody disputed his position there. The only problem which seems to be was that whether he can tolerate dissent in the party or not. Saba, isn't that the basic question?
You know, I would agree with what Professor Jodhka is saying, that Girish, how much of political parties have we seen where there have been factions? I have seen both in the Congress and we've seen in the Janta Party.
Absolutely. We have seen the worst.
There has to be a system.
Yes.
There has to be a system where there is a limit to which you can. There were certain things that happened. I mean, you had veterans like Yoginder and Prashant holding press conferences. All of this was happening. Arvind Kejriwal was stung by somebody, and the tape did land up with Prashant Bhushan. It was all came out on live TV. These are things. He was entrapped in a conversation. Let's be clear about all of this. The gentleman went on a TV channel and said, "Maine to Prashant ji ko tape de diya tha." All of this has happened. So let's not just look at, there was a series of events that happened, all of this. And I would agree with him also that you must try and be true to your ideology. But I think what's happened to the Aam Aadmi Party is that they promise procedures which are actually impossible to keep when you enter politics. So they are a work in progress. And they are something which is still evolving. And so in that sense, I would agree, you have become a political party. There are still many exceptional things about them. No other party still puts up his donations on his website.
That's right.
There are many things about them.
There are many things. But Professor Pant, have they been too, impractical in the way they have projected themselves at the beginning, and now they find themselves, pragmatism doesn't allow them to be so principled?
No, I think on this side of the debate, I'm clearly on the side of idealism. I mean, I don't think that we fall into this trap that without compromising with your basic principles, you can't be termed a pragmatic. You can be pragmatic without totally junking your idealistic.
But can I just,
yes,
if I may, the problem here, of course, idealism is beautiful, but what is Kejriwal's real thing that he has to do? He has to govern in Delhi. He has to run a government. I mean, if his energies are going to be consumed, anybody running by some very high-profile people who have a constant barrage of letters and emails and complaints and press conferences, the basic thing is he has to govern in Delhi.
Okay.
That's I think.
No, I would not disagree on this one with Saba at all. I would think that the problem with Mr. Kejriwal is that he wants to have his cake, eat the crumbs, and have something else somewhere else. The problem is
this binary is very problematic.
One second,
if he wants to be the chief minister, and I would agree with Saba, absolutely, he owes it to the people of Delhi and the electorate. Let him be the chief minister, devote all his time to the chief ministership, and let the organizational work of the party to be left to people. So he has time to respond to the needs of his electorate. And the other people can worry about and respond to questions, paper, barrages of allegations, do these things.
Yes,
if you want to contest,
one second. Yes, Professor Jodhka.
This binary of pragmatic versus principle is very dangerous.
It is dangerous, but
it is very dangerous. No. Let me complete. This has come from the establishment, and I think this is very dangerous. The challenge for us, that's what we look up to AAP, is to translate the principles with which what Professor Pant was saying, younger generation is identifying into principles, into pragmatics. How do you translate those principles into pragmatics around which you weave an organization which is completely different from the vertical patriarchal structure that we are used to? I mean, that is possible. It's not impossible.
No, we don't know whether it's possible.
Which have worked out institutional structures.
One second.
But we need institutional structures.
No, we don't know whether it's possible. We
Girish,
thought it was. Everybody thought it was possible when the government, when Aam Aadmi Party was voted back, especially in 2015. But in 1 month's time, we see that it's not working. Milan, no, when Arvind Kejriwal says that we are here to win elections, what does it mean? What does it mean to the volunteers? Is this whole movement, which it's a movement, it was more of a movement than a political party. Right. Now it is becoming more and more a political party, not a movement anymore.
We were prepared to see it as a political party.
When he says that we are here to win, we have come to win and not lose, what does it mean? What does it mean to the volunteers?
So it meant that we will give tickets, the candidate tickets, to anybody and everybody who has winnability, except they shouldn't have the 3 C's, that is, they should not be loss of character, criminal and corruption. So and those are such broad things that almost half the world will fit into it. Fair enough. However, earlier it had meant to us in the 2013 election, it was tickets by volunteer voting, which was actually conducted, but the voting results were not made public. So that's what it had translated to, volunteers, that what it means. Coming back to the question, the organization versus party, the Delhi government's thing, which Saba is saying, I think, again, the main point, Arvind can govern. He can even be the national convener if he wants, and he can govern, and he can stick to the philosophy of Aam Aadmi Party, and which is just remove the whip system. Let the MLAs speak up their mind. Let only right now only 2 MLAs who are speaking against the government that you're not doing enough. Just remove the whip system. Arvind will have a tough time in governing, but that's the system which we have been advocating. That no whip system.
No, Milan. After all this, is there a feeling that this party, which was supposed to be different from others, it's no different? Have you already come to the conclusion? Have volunteers already come to that conclusion?
No, sir. We have not. So, exactly now, I would just like to say that media is probably getting the perception that the game is over after 28th. However, the game has just begun. It was every weapon of the establishment. And I use the word establishment. There is a domination of establishment in the Delhi office of Aam Aadmi Party. I am still a member of Aam Aadmi Party, and I have not been expelled, and they cannot expel me, even though I am speaking against Arvind and I am criticizing whatever has been going on. That's the freedom I enjoy, and I use it. Now, the establishment has been completely trying to say, no, they have won. However, the game has just started. For example, now I am exactly going to do what they did in the National Council meeting on 28th March. I'm going to call 200 people, and I'll say these guys are National Council members. I'll not give you guys any proof, just as they are not giving you any proof. And I'll say they are National Council members. And I'm getting myself elected as National Convener by them and National Secretary, and I'll send that chitti to Election Commission. And then, I'm the new National Convener.
I have to say, this is a very...
No, that's interesting. But, Milan, the question is of structures. What kind of structures you need? One second. Are you willing to accept that there has to be a vertical structure in a party? You have to have somebody, a man at the top who has to take the final call if it comes to that.
In the constitution, the written constitution, I'm not talking about the convention, the written constitution of the party has to be followed in letter, let alone spirit. Spirit is a subjective term, but in letter it has to be followed. In other parties, as Saba is saying, and Sir is also saying, in other parties, the tradition is to disrespect their own constitution. If Congress, we were just debating, if Congress, starts following their own constitution, we will become a Sone ki Chidiya, I'm sure. If BJP starts, following its own constitution, in the constitution, in BJP's constitution, it is written, they go for decentralization, but there is a Modiization in BJP. However, so anyway, having said that,
is there a Arvind Kejriwalization in the Aam Aadmi Party now?
They do. Arvind's group does not believe in processes, does not believe in Aam Aadmi Party constitution at all.
Okay.
The constitution says the National Council list should have been made public 21 days ago. It has not been made public, even today.
Yes, Saba.
I think some of the points that Milan is saying, of course he's idealistic and he's talking about things, but you know, the manner in which the operation was done, Arvind would have won anyway, whatever
Okay,
he
I
wanted.
think Saba.
That is subjective. In fact,
I'm
that's
sorry.
what we are saying.
No, Milan, I think Saurabh Bharadwaj, who was supposed to join us earlier, has finally joined us. Saurabh Bharadwaj is the spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party. Saurabh, Saurabh, the question, we are running out of time. Actually, we just got one. I can ask you one question because you come so late. One of the volunteers of your party who is sitting here, who is obviously not happy with what has happened so far, he says that the basic constitution of the party has been violated. You are deviated from all the basic principles of the party.
I would like to say and accept that whenever there are such disciplinary proceedings against anybody, whether it's in a party or whether in any other professional organization, there are always mixed feelings of compassion, sometimes sympathy, sometimes sadness, and people do say all such kind of things. However, what we believe is that we have tried our level best to obey all the principles which are there in the constitution of our party.
You have adhered to all the principles. But Saurabh, the feeling is that among some of the volunteers, one of the volunteers is here in the studio with us. They say that the party has become Arvind Kejriwal centric. The whole idea of collective leadership has been given a go by. Now there is no room for dissent in your party.
I do accept that there may be some feeling like this in a fraction of volunteers, and our party will try our level best to communicate with them, to converse with those volunteers and try to engage them in the conversation, and we hope they'll come back to our party and they'll understand the sentiments and what were the basic reasons for this action.
But do you think that by virtually showing the door to to Prashant Bhushan and Yogendra Yadav and others, your party has made it very clear that dissent is not going to be tolerated?
I would say that our party tried a lot. We didn't want this situation to be there, and we tried a lot in conversation with them that we didn't want this situation to be there. However, all the conversations were of no use. You know it better. The 2 days before this National Council meeting, we were on the talking terms with Yogendra ji and Prashant ji, and there was a letter of apology which was written. We always wanted to avoid this ugly situation, and it was really unfortunate, and everybody believes that this was an unfortunate situation, and we tried our level best to avoid it.
But Saurabh, the question is Aam Aadmi Party the same party which won the elections in Delhi in 2015 and 2013?
It's the same party. I know that there is a fraction of volunteers which may be disillusioned, but our party will try to have conversation with them, talk to them. I do understand there may be some kind of there can be such kind of conversations somewhere in some fractions of the society, and it is very natural. Whenever you take an example of an army, you do a court martial to someone, and there is always a mixed feeling that that this disciplinary action should have been avoided. However, for organizations to run, you have to have some kind of minimum discipline to hold everybody together.
Okay. Thanks for joining us, Saurabh. I wish you had joined us earlier.
Girish, is just interesting that Mr. Bharadwaj brings out the analogy of the army court martial. Army is not supposed to be the most democratic of institutions.
Absolutely. Last words to you. I'm sorry we're running out of time. Last words to you, Milan. Are you satisfied with what Saurabh says?
No. Of course, here Saurabh did not talk about the National Council list being made public. You asked about the constitution being followed. The 200 signatures which should have been made public. In fact, Arvind, as per the RTI response from Election Commission, they have to be only 295 founding members as the members of National Council, and they cannot be any more because they have to be elected by active members. In the video yesterday, which was made public of Arvind Kejriwal, he said there are no active members outside of the National Council. Now, therefore, the National Council is only 295 members. Now, Saurabh didn't speak anything about making the list public.
I think this is an issue which will need more debate. We are completely run out of time. But the fact remains that there are a lot of Saurabh Bharadwaj thinks that there's just a fraction of people who are unhappy, but we don't know how much it is, and we'll get to know soon how the volunteers, the supporters of Aam Aadmi Party feel. Thanks to all my guests. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue, the big picture, same time tomorrow.